This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.
Welcome to History for Cocktail Parties. My name is Thornton Kennedy.
And I'm James Ottley.
And we are recording our second episode on the hunt for John Wilkes Booth. After shooting Abraham Lincoln, he makes it to Maryland and reconnects with the co-conspirator David Harold. Controversially, or maybe unknown, after the assassination was April 14th, 1865, 10:20 at night?
10:15.
10:15 at night. So between 10:15 and midnight, when he makes it to Surratt's Tavern in Maryland, he breaks his leg.
Right.
He may have broken his leg jumping out of the presidential box onto the stage. He likely broke his leg falling off of his horse while getting the hell out of Dodge. Samuel Mudd sets his broken leg that evening on April 15th, I believe. And there's a whole side journey with Samuel Mudd, and that's where Your Name is Mudd comes from. They get lost. They spend 4 days hiding in a pine thicket. And they even get lost trying to cross the Potomac River into Virginia. And passing into Virginia is really what John Wilkes Booth thinks is his salvation.
That's right.
Once he makes it to Virginia, he is free and clear. He is a meticulous planner, but all of his plans so far have gone awry. Meanwhile, Secretary of the War Department, Edwin Stanton, has 1,000 Union troops spread out looking for him. And he has offered a reward of $50,000 for John Wilkes Booth, $25,000 for David Harold, and another $25,000 for John Surratt, connected to Surratt's Tavern. So that's where we are as we get into our second episode. And what's our signature cocktail today?
We are drinking a Garrett's Barn Ember again.
A Garrett's Barn Ember. Let me tell you guys what's in this thing that James found on the internet. It's bourbon, maple syrup, bitters, and burnt orange peel.
I got you in trouble last time.
And it is delicious. Cheers.
Cheers.
And that gives me an opportunity to talk a little bit about one of our partners' Play as we get started. History is full of lessons learned. And one of the big ones is that those who don't take action get run over by those who do. Play is a full-service ad agency that helps brands find their spark or reignite it. Their team of creative, quote, players, end quote, turns bold ideas into action with smart strategy, design, and digital know-how, helping new businesses launch strong and established ones move forward with fresh energy. Ready to grow your business? Get a free marketing consultation today at goplaydesign.com. That's goplaydesign.com. And thank you, Play. We appreciate your support.
We truly do.
All right, James, we are now, we're back in Maryland.
We're back in Maryland. That's right.
Though they have gotten on the Potomac River. They sailed a few miles, or I didn't sail, but they floated.
Rode, yeah.
And they thought they had made it to Virginia.
Not to be.
They are back in
After 5 hours of rowing in circles, they are back in Maryland. Good news is David Harold knows where they are, and he's actually got a friend that lives nearby. So they conceal the boat. Harold leaves Booth at the boat, and he hikes about a mile or so to Indiantown to catch up with his friend.
David Harold is there because he is an outdoorsman.
That's right.
He knows the Maryland countryside like the back of his hand, so he's really there to shepherd John Wilkes Booth through the wilderness.
That's absolutely right. Good point. So he goes up to his friend. Harold goes up to his friend's farm, a guy named Hughes, tells him what the deal is. Hughes will not let him stay there, but he says, look, if you hide outside, I'll bring you some food, which is what they do for the whole next day. The next Friday night, April 21st, they don't go back down to the boat for some reason. I don't know if they're too tired or what, but they just stay where they are in hiding. They wait till Saturday night, April 22nd. They row back out into the Potomac, and Thomas Jones, the guy that had helped them in the pine thicket and given them the boat.
Right. And amazingly does not turn them in despite being offered the $50,000, $75,000 reward, which was life-changing money.
No doubt. This guy, Thomas Jones, the river ghost, had given them a compass heading to land on the other side into Virginia near the farm of a 39-year-old widow. She had served Confederate signal agents and couriers during the war. Lady's name is Miss Queensberry. And they've been told that she will help them.
Right.
So on the crossing, they do make it. They pass within 300 yards of a gunboat, a Union gunboat, but they're not spotted. Lucky for them. And they come pretty close to landing in the right place in Virginia. And so Harold hikes up to Queensberry's farm to get there. So she says, look, I can't help you, but I will send for this guy named Thomas Jones knows, whose name is Thomas Harding. He was a leading Confederate agent in the area during the Civil War. He's actually the brother-in-law of Jones, the river ghost, the guy that gave him the boat. And actually, back in December of 1864, Hardin had been introduced to Booth by Dr. Mudd in Bryantown. So they knew each other.
Everything is connected to Dr. Mudd.
Yeah, it is, in a way. And so at sundown, this guy, Thomas Harbin, David Harold, Booth, or I should say two other operatives, they ride to Booth. They put him in the saddle, and they ride to the farm of this guy named Dr. Richard Stewart. It's about 8 miles away. And they arrive at Dr. Stewart's, and his reception is not exactly warm or hospitable.
It's not a welcoming.
Not at all. I think the exchange is one of the more humorous parts of this story. Dr. Stewart hears them approaching and yells out, who are you? And Harold says, we're Marylanders in want of accommodation for the night. Stewart says, impossible. I have no accommodations. And Harold says, but my brother has a broken leg. Stewart says, I'm not a surgeon. Harold says, but you were recommended by Dr. Mudd. Stewart says, never heard of him. So anyway, at this point, one of the operatives that was riding with them, a guy named Bryant, kind of comes out of the shadows, reveals himself. Stewart does know this guy, Bryant. Ultimately agrees to give them some food, but that's it. He says,
no quarter. No,
absolutely. Absolutely. He said, come in for a meal, but that's it. So Booth and Harold, when they go into his house, these four guys, including Harbin, run off. They're like done. They're like, we've made our delivery. That's it, And so Dr. Stewart starts running after Bryant, trying to get him to stop. Like, you can't just leave these guys here. Anyway, that doesn't work. And so he feeds them, starts shuttling them out of the house. And Booth and Harold ask him about maybe getting a wagon ride to Fredericksburg, Virginia. He says, look, I can't do it, but I have a neighbor down the way, African-American man named Lucas. He might be able to help you. So they go to Lucas's house and basically barge in.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. And at this point, John Wilkes Booth is beginning to lose his grip on reality.
Yeah.
But he's angry that he's not getting the accommodations he thought he would get in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not going well.
That's exactly right.
And so he takes it out on this black family.
He sure does. And so the Lucas, he sleeps on the porch of his house. He's afraid. He kicks
him out of the house. He pulls a knife on him.
Yeah, he's afraid he's going to kill him.
Yeah.
So the next morning, Booth agrees to or offers to pay Lucas $10 in gold for a ride to Port Conway, which is a small ferry town on the Rappahannock River, about 10 miles south. His son Charles agrees to do it. They hitch up the wagon. They head out around 7 a.m. and they reach Port Conway around noon. And Charles stops the wagon in front of this guy, William Rollins' store. And Booth asks Charles, it's kind of funny, to wait a couple minutes so he can write a letter to Dr. Stewart for Charlie to deliver it to him. He wants to send a nastygram to Dr. Stewart.
He is angry.
He's running for his life. He doesn't know if cavalry is right behind him, and he takes the time to sit down and writes a letter, then he tears it up and writes another one. It's not good enough. He quotes the King James Bible and Macbeth, two of Lincoln's favorite, interestingly enough, and gives it to Charlie Lucas to take back to Dr. Stewart for being inhospitable. But just got the gall of this guy.
I also like to point out that this is the second time in his escape that he has relied on African Americans to help him make his way.
That's an excellent point.
He's a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Who is depending on the kindness,
yeah, a stranger.
Of African American.
Absolutely. William Rollins, he's the local store owner there. He walks out. He sees Booth and Harold and Charlie. He recognizes Charlie. Doesn't know Booth. Doesn't know Harold. And Booth asks Rollins if he'll take him in his wagon across the river on the ferry. There's a ferry there, and drive him to Orange Courthouse, which is about 40 miles away. Orange Courthouse, there's the railroad, Orange and Alexandria Railroad is there, and so that would be a great escape route for him, but it's 40 miles away. Rollins says, no, I'm not going to take you 40 miles. I'm not going to take you across the river in 40 miles in my wagon. But I will take you in the wagon to Bowling Green, Virginia, which is about 15 miles away, for a fee. And he tells them that Bowling Green, there's a railroad there, or just outside of there, the Fredericksburg and Richmond Railroad. And with this, Booth is really excited about that, getting to a railroad,
Right.
He says, "Well, would you take us across the river right now in your little boat? Forget about the wagon ride. I'll get a wagon ride from somebody on the other side. Let's go at once." And Rollins says, "No, I can't take you right now. I'm going to put my fishing nets out, but I'll come back and do it later." So he offers to pay him double. Rollins says, "Sorry, man, no deal." So they're sitting there waiting and waiting. After a little while, they see these three cavalrymen ride up. And, for a couple moments there, they were just sweating bullets, thinking, "Oh, my God, the gig is up." Turns out that these were Confederate cavalry men, and they were actually veterans of this elite cavalry unit, which was commanded by legendary John Singleton Mosby, who we talked about a little bit last time, the Gray Ghost. Right. We won't get into detail on him this time. One of these Confederates, cavalrymen, is a guy named Willie Jett. Remember that name?
Yeah, Willie Jett's going to play a very important role in John Wilkes Booth's story.
Indeed. And so Booth tells them, who he is, what he's done, and he asks for their help. Confederates agree to accompany them on the ferry and then help them on the side. And Jett even has a friend in Port Royal, which is just on the other side of the river, who he says, well, he sure will help them and, put them up.
Willie Jett's account of this is a little different.
Oh, okay.
Willie Jett makes it seem like they were very reticent, that when they found out that it was John Wilkes Booth, they didn't make eye contact and sort of shuffled their feet around.
That's his story after the fact, right?
Right. He wrote that after the fact, for
Indeed.
Sure.
So Rollins comes back around and he's done setting his fishing nets, and Booth and Harold say, "No, thanks, man. We got it taken care of. We got it covered." Incidentally, this is kind of important later, Rollins does recognize Willie Jett, which becomes significant. So the five of them, this is Harold, Booth, the three Confederate,
Mortimer Ruggles, Absalom Bainbridge, and Willie Jett.
All right. Fantastic. They board the ferry. They cross the Rappahannock to Port Royal. And just for reference, the river's about 900 feet wide. It's not a huge river. Also, kind of incidentally, the owner of the ferry is Charles Thornton.
Hey,
no relation there, I'm sure. But anyway, so they get to the other side. They go to Jett's friend in Port Royal, and they promptly refuse to give them accommodations.
Again.
No help.
Yeah, this is that network of Confederate sympathizers that John Wilkes Booth was counting on.
And they're like, "No, we're done. No way." And so, but the sister of the friend says, "You might try the Garrett's farm. They live a couple miles up the way. It's called Locust Hill Farm. And you might."
Spoiler alert, remember, our cocktail is called the Garrett Barn Ember.
That's right.
So a whole little foreshadowing. Folks.
Indeed. So they're like, "Okay, well, we'll try it. We'll try them." They ride up the way a couple miles. They're right at Garrett's farm later in the afternoon. Willie Jett and Booth ride ahead. Harold, he hangs back. And they tell Mr. Garrett that Booth is a wounded soldier, Confederate soldier, tells him his name is James Boyd. And it just so happens that Garrett's two sons are just back from the war, and he agrees to let him stay, has sympathy for him. Doesn't know who he is, doesn't know what he's done.
Right.
So Harold doesn't stay at the Garrett farm that night. He rides off with Willie Jett and goes to Bowling Green to purchase new shoes for some reason. A little odd fact of history there. He plans to rejoin Booth at the Garrett farm the next day. That's April 25th. Neither Mr. Garrett nor his son suspect Booth, at this point he's not suspicious. He's just a wounded soldier.
He apparently has a lovely time on the Garrett farm.
Yes,
he
does.
Playing with the kids and just having
sitting on the porch with a pipe and all that good stuff.
No troubles in the world.
Yeah. Crazy, and all these people are after him. Anyway, the next day, Harold returns to the Garrett farm, and at first Booth does not recognize him, doesn't know it's him. He sees this guy approaching, and he thinks, "Oh my God, it's the cavalry or detective or something like that." So he runs up the stairs, I guess as fast as he can with a bad leg, and grabs his pistol.
Oh, I didn't realize that was
Yeah.
I thought it was a cavalry actually rode up and he ran into the woods, but no, it was
At this point,
wow.
yeah. And so, this one of the sons is kind of suspicious of this. Like, what, if figures, why would you run up and get your pistols just by
Yeah.
just seeing some guy
This
approach?
is Jack Garrett, who puts together pretty quickly, these are not the men that they think they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't know that they have
Right.
assassinated the president of the United States, but they think they might be horse thieves or there's something
There's
going on here.
something going on here. So let me take a break real quick and introduce a guy named Detective Lafayette Baker, who's
Fantastic.
a pretty integral part of this story. Early in the war, Lafayette Baker for the Union distinguished himself as a Union spy. Secretary of State Seward hired him to investigate Confederate communications routed through Maryland. Secretary of War Department Edwin Stanton, who we've talked about before, promoted Baker to the War Department. Stanton gave him full power to create an organization known as the National Detectives Police, which was kind of the precursor to the Secret Service.
Interesting.
Yeah, kind of cool. And he's tasked with seeking out spy networks in Canada and New York and Washington. But he's also described, this guy, Detective Lafayette Baker, as shifty, and that his loyalties seem undefined. And so
Sounds like a Frenchman.
And Lafayette, yeah, maybe. And so Stanton, he grows kind of weary of him and ends up firing this guy. And so Lafayette Baker returns to New York, and his movements at this point are kind of sketchy, or murky, we should say. Interestingly enough, Stanton has a change of heart. The manhunt is at a standstill, and he summons Baker on April 16th, finds him somehow in New York, knows exactly where he is, summons him to Washington, D.C., and basically authorizes Lafayette Baker to conduct his own independent manhunt. It tells him he can have whatever resources and manpower that he needs.
Seems like a man who can get a job done.
Yeah, carte blanche, all of the, whatever he needs, So just put that in your pocket for a minute. So April 24th, this guy Lafayette Baker is he's trying to find Booth or get started on it, and this guy Major James O'Byrne sends a telegram to the War Department telegraph office in Washington. And the telegram says 2 men have been seen crossing the Potomac River over to White Point, Virginia.
Wow.
And on April 16th. And this means that they've been in Virginia for 8 days. And Colonel Lafayette Baker, Detective Baker, had just happened to be on the scene when this telegraph came in. He's been kind of snooping around town, ever since he was summoned back. And Baker even tried to steal other detectives' leads. I mean, he's in it for himself, and he's kind of not the most reputable character. And has even offered his own reward. I don't know where he's going to get the money, for $30,000 to kind of sweeten the pot for people. He's really intent on catching Booth. It turns out that these 2 men reported in this telegram were not Booth.
I know. I think
and Harold.
The dates don't line up.
Right, but nobody knows that at this point. They don't know where they are.
Wow, talk about a tip that ends up netting
the
most wanted criminal.
And it's wrong. Yeah. And so Baker seizes the telegram, rushes back to his Pennsylvania Avenue headquarters, and puts together a plan for a special manhunt. He tells his cousin, Detective Luther Baker, not to be confused with himself, Lafayette, tells him the plan, and he writes a request for troops from General Hancock for this mission. Interestingly, Hancock, a Major General of the Army of the Potomac, ran for president a little bit later on against Garfield, narrowly lost. Everybody knows Garfield now because of the Netflix series. Anyway, so he writes a request for these troops. There's a Colonel Conger who's in the office, and he's recruited for the mission. And this guy, Captain Edward Doherty, who's a company commander of the 16th New York Cavalry Regiment, is ordered to muster his troops, his 25 cavalrymen, and report to Colonel Baker. So Lafayette Baker's got these men put together, his plan put together. He orders Doherty and his cousin, Luther Baker, and Colonel Conger to immediately head out to Belle Plaine, Virginia, which is not exactly where this telegram said they crossed, but I think it's only about 8 miles away. Lafayette Baker stays behind to intercept telegrams and safeguard his share of the reward money if it turns out to be a good tip. Cavalry unit boards the steamer the John S. Ide, and in a couple hours, they land at a wharf in Belle Plaine, Virginia. Again, this is on the Potomac. If you're looking at a map, and we should probably put a map up on social media.
Absolutely.
When we're running this series. Again, this is 8 miles from White Point, Virginia, where the telegram said the two men had crossed. But somehow Lafayette Baker knows or wants to send them there. The troops ride south to Port Conway, just where Booth had crossed, about 45 miles away on the Rappahannock River, Hannock River. Lafayette Baker has reviewed the maps. He's asked later, like, how did you know to head there? He says, well, I looked at the maps and kind of made an educated guess, know, and, seems a little suspicious in and of itself and or foreshadowing.
As the kids would say, sus.
Sus. Yeah, exactly. So, meanwhile, back at Garrett's farm, after rushing to grab his pistols, Booth realizes it's Harold and there's no cause for alarm. Booth tells the son, John Garrett, one of Garrett's sons, that that Harold is his cousin, David Boyd, and asks if cousin David can stay the night at the farm with them. Now, Mr. Garrett, the older Mr. Garrett, he's away for the day, and so John says, "Look, I can't let him stay here without my father's permission." And again, he's suspicious of Booth having run up to grab his pistols.
Yeah.
So back to Luther Baker and Colonel Corbin and the 16th New York Cavalry. They ride into Port Conway, Virginia, just where Lafayette Baker has told them to go, and just where Booth had crossed just a day or so before. And they get there on Tuesday, April 25th. It's about between 3 and 4. And they see William Rollins, the store owner, who, was going to give them a ride or help him take them across in his boat. And he's sitting on his front porch, and they asked him, he's like, have any strangers crossed, the ferry or seen any strangers in the last couple of days? He says, no. He says, how about a man with a broken leg? And this jogs his memory, you know. And he said, oh, yeah, he crossed with 3 Confederate cavalrymen on Thornton's ferry yesterday and probably headed to Bowling Green. And so Luther Baker shows Rollins a picture of Booth, and Rollins positively identifies that it's Booth. So they've got their man. He also tells them that Willie Jett was one of the riders and that he knew Willie. Now, Mrs. Rollins offers, this maybe kind of seals the case right here. She provides even more helpful info that Willie Jett was courting a young lady named Goulman, whose father kept a hotel, the Star Hotel, at Bowling Green. And so they're like, well, God, he's not, most likely that's as good a lead as any. Right. So Baker and the 16th New York Cavalry, they cross on the ferry over the Rappahannock. Again, it's 900 feet wide, so not that far. They get over to Port Royal, again, which Booth has passed through, and they recruit Rollins from the other side to go with them and go all the way to Bowling Green and show them the way. It's about 15 miles away. And in the process of riding from Port Royal to Bowling Green, they storm right past the Garrett farm. 25 horses, full speed, dust, sabers rattling and whatnot, definitely is going to cause somebody alarm if they see it. And I think this is what
when John Wilkes Booth runs into the woods.
Right.
Okay.
And but when they ride past, Booth, so he comes back out and starts enjoying himself again. But it's interesting, as the cavalry rides past, they know that David Harold is Booth's main accomplice. Harold is standing in the front yard.
Really?
Yeah, when they ride by, and nobody just by chance so not even Rollins, who spotted was with him the day before. So Mr. Garrett, the older Mr. Garrett, he's been away for the day. He finds out from neighbors that the Union cavalry is looking for 2 white men. And he thinks, oh, my God, so he gets home, and now Harold is there, i.e. two white men, and realizes he's got to get these guys off his property just, as soon as possible, whoever they are, And so he offers to take them right then and there to Orange Courthouse, which has a train station. I think we mentioned that. But Booth and Harold they're unhurried. They don't want to leave until the next morning, which the 26th, which is just, I find that kind of odd,
Right.
that like here the cavalry, they've seen the cavalry go past. Anyway, so after dinner, Booth asked Garrett like how he plans to take them to Orange Courthouse the next day. He says, well, we can either go in a wagon or we can all ride horseback if you're able. And Booth eagerly says, yeah, let's ride horseback. And this makes Garrett really suspicious because he thinks they're going to ride off the horses,
Right.
steal the horses, maybe shoot him, and, a lot easier to get away riding horses than stealing a wagon. And so he's suspicious. The son is suspicious. Harold then starts talking about, this is at dinner table, tells Garrett and the sons that he served in the Confederate Army. He claimed he was part of the 13th Virginia Infantry Regiment, even said, I was in Company C and under Captain Robinson. Well, they know this regiment, they know this company, and they know he's full of it.
Right.
There's no Captain Robinson. So anyway, they challenge the story. Now they are really sus, as
Right.
Virginia would say. So he says, look, you guys cannot stay in my house tonight. So, and they say, well, why not? Or they offer, well, is there anywhere else we can stay? He says, well, I will let you stay in the tobacco barn. And this is about 250 feet away from the main house. It's 48 by 50. It's not a huge barn, but it's a place to sleep. There's hay in there. And he knows they're in trouble, but he doesn't have any idea that they're Lincoln's assassin.
Right.
And so the Garrett brothers take Booth and Harold down to the barn, let them inside, kind of show them where a good place
Sleep
to
on these tobacco leaves.
Yeah, or this hay or whatever, and shut the barn door behind them. William Garrett, one of the sons, quietly puts the key in the lock.
Locks them in.
Because, again, he's worried they're going to steal the horses in the middle of the night. Booth and Harold have no idea that they are locked in, and the Garrett brothers decide to sleep in the nearby corn storage shed just to keep an eye on them.
Corn crib.
Indeed, the corn crib. And, if you were worried about somebody stealing your horses, you would certainly hope that you had full replacement cost insurance to cover you.
You know who you could get that insurance from?
I bet I do.
Sterling Seacrest Pritchard. They are one of the Southeast's largest privately held insurance brokers, and quite possibly the only agency brave enough to tackle everything from construction mishaps to healthcare misadventures, logistics disasters, real estate whoopsies, and even ransom notes from hackers who apparently have never heard of two-factor authentication. When it comes to your home, your business, and all the weirdness life can throw your way, SSP has you covered, usually before you realize you need it. For a friendly guide through, wait, that can actually happen, to, do I need a lawyer? Answer in James's case, yes. Call 678-424-6503 or visit sspins.com. That's sspins.com. And we thank Sterling Seacrest Pritchard for their support.
We truly appreciate your support. So we've got Booth and Harold locked in the barn. We've got the cavalry hot on their trail. And that's where we're going to leave it. We're going to leave you hanging. Please like, subscribe, follow, drop us a comment. We truly appreciate it. This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.